Really not my question, but Mr. Jeffers, I have to correct the record. He said that one person, that the FRA had found that one person was as safe as the one-person crew was as safe as two-person crew. But I had earlier quoted from 2016 NPRM FRA that the agency has studies showing the benefits of a second crew member and other information studies and other information detailing the potential safety benefits of multi-person crews. In addition, qualitative, the sole crew member with tasks, and that PTC does not substitute for all the tasks performed by properly trained conductors. I just want to put that in the record, because I think it contradicts what you said. That is really
May I respond to that?
You may, but quickly.
That's
not really my question.
I will just say the FRA did rely on qualitative studies, but also said that it had no data to support that two was safer than one in the preamble.
Well, I don't want to argue with you, but I don't think that the FRA comes out with that kind of a definitive with having, quote, no data. In other words, no data, that's your opinion. I don't think the FRA would say it had no data. Here's my question. I'm going to have to ask Mr. Jeffries to respond for Amtrak, since we don't have Amtrak here, but he does represent the association. And it's really a question for you and for Mr. Gonzalez. I was really troubled when about Mr. Gonzalez's testimony, because he said that that Amtrak had needlessly purchased new 9mm handguns this year when it had already purchased 40 caliber handguns just 3 years ago. In light of the cost-cutting measures that Amtrak is experiencing, I wonder if you think, Mr. Jeffries, the purchase of handguns so soon after having purchased them reflects the priority of the industry.
Congresswoman, I have to admit, I'm not educated on the handgun purchase issue. I would be happy to get my associates at Amtrak to come in and brief your staff on that. I just don't have a good read.
Better than that, I would like you to submit an answer to my question from your association member, Amtrak, so that we can put it in the record.
I'd be glad to. Thank you.
And I have to ask Mr. Gonzalez further about that. How often, in your experience, does the police force typically upgrade equipment like handguns? Was that unusual as far as you were concerned?
I know when I got hired in 2010, they had issued me an older weapon, and a couple of years after that, that's when they upgraded us for the most recent one.
So they put priority. They put priority on purchasing handguns.
Not really. As far as I know these new 9mm weapons were a surprise to us, and that was one of our questions: was why are you spending so much money on new weapons when we just recently purchased? Every officer received their own weapon, so
yeah,
it was
received their own weapon. So boy.
Yeah.
Are there increased safety concerns that require the use of weapons at Amtrak? I need to know, because this is
we've never.
Where Amtrak starts.
Sorry, but I think as far as the police department as a whole, I don't know how many shootings we've had for them to upgrade or downgrade for us, because the 40 caliber weapon has a little bit more power than a 9mm, and they decided to go with that.
Mr. Jeffries, in the absence of Amtrak, I'd also like you to submit again to the chairman an understanding of this frequent upgrading of handguns, why that's necessary. I know nothing about handguns. Mr. Gonzalez doesn't indicate he does, but when we're looking at safety officers, for example, just their presence increases safety. So somebody over at Amtrak is fascinated with handguns. I have a question, another question for you, Mr. Gonzalez. Impressively, the freight shipments are increasing from 17, according to my information, from 17 or over 17 million tons in 2017 to 24 million tons by 2040. And then we've had a lot of discussion here about workforce versus technology. And I want to go on record to saying I'm not a Luddite. I think there's no question that our country and this Congress has to prepare for the day when technology and machines, just like we had to prepare for the day when we would not be using as much manpower in the future. So I don't want to say that shouldn't happen. I do understand and appreciate the concern for safety that we have heard here from others on the panel. But I must ask, do you see the workforce increasing when we see this extraordinary increase, 17 billion tons to 24 billion tons in a little over 10 years? Do you see the workforce increasing as well, or do you see employees being replaced by technology with this very substantial increase in business?
I absolutely see a major workforce role as we move forward. I mean, you pointed it out. We're going to have a huge increase in demand for freight movements in this country that we're going to be able to need to meet. And it's incumbent upon all of us at this table to work together to figure out the best ways to do that. It may require changing roles at the end of the day. I can't say, but I can say that this is something we should all be working towards together about how to best meet that demand and serve the economy.
Well, is the association working with the concerns we've heard here about safety and technology? We're very interested in the uses of technology. And as I indicated, we don't think anything can be done. Even if we wanted to, you can't stop technology. I mean, I drive a hybrid. I like to drive an automatic car too. So I don't, but I want to know how the industry can address the concerns of the workers so that you don't have this constant concern that it's simply replacement of person for technology. There go the jobs, and there's nothing we can do about it. And to what extent are ongoing discussions going on so that there is agreement? And I should pose that as well to others on the panel, so that there begins to be an agreement instead of constant controversy as technology becomes real.
So I think that is actually one really positive thing about this industry, is that we are a fully collectively bargained industry largely.
Yes.
And that we're all at the table together. It's going to require all of us to be at the table together. And in fact, we are required to all be at the table together to work through issues like what you pointed out as far as the shape and look of the workforce of the future. So
Can I ask you, have you all been bargaining collectively about technology with some satisfaction so that you believe that this will happen in conjunction with how the workers understand why it's happening and without simply offloading of workers for technology? Yes, sir.
We have a history of bargaining with respect to technological improvements and have gone along with industry movements for 40 years, 50 years now, as things get better from going steam locomotive to diesel locomotive, things such as that. We're with you. We're not Luddites. We get it. The challenge is that along the way, we don't want safety to be compromised by lack of regulatory oversight. There's a minimum standard that needs to be maintained. The industry in and of itself cannot be relied upon to do that. There needs to be some regulatory oversight and responsibility to help us get to the right place. We can't do it on our own.
Well, it's the best argument I've ever heard for collective bargaining, that if in fact workers sit down with industry and engage in collective bargaining, that I will feel that we are not the last chance for safety, that the last chance is, as always, relies with fruitful collective bargaining. I thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.